So recently we have this thing of Shidduch crisis. I mean, you look around, you do see a large number of people who are not married. And, one looks at his parents and says, my parents got married, my uncles and aunts got married, how come I'm not married? So first of all, let's wave the flag a little bit. There's no need to make crises out of this. Reason number one, because once you make a crisis out of something, it becomes a crisis. And now everybody's putting the excuse why I'm not married, because, hey, listen, after all, there's a crisis. What do you want from me? That's why I'm not married. So all these people to go and talk about crisis, there's no crisis whatsoever. Not at least because that's the reason why they're not getting married. You should know that overall, in society, even in a secular society, people don't get married so young anymore anyway. And even for them, let's say it's quite common today for a 30-year-old woman not to be married. Society had shifted and changed and so on and so forth. You look at countries like Japan or Germany, where it's very industrial, very business-oriented. Women are quite comfortable not getting married, and you might have people that just don't get married. And it's okay. So overall, we don't live in a bubble. We are part of the world. And since we are part of the world, that is a phenomena that happens globally, not only in the Fruman society. I mean, we are a bunch of yentas and we like to make everything, everything with bugs in the water and bugs in the air, and we make dramas out of everything because we're kind of bored. So that's not the new trend, is to have a Shidduch crisis. But it's not a crisis. It's a phenomenon that's global wide. And one of the reasons is that for that issue, even in the non-religious world, is because the ideals have changed and shifted dramatically within one generation between us and our parents, or us and our children. There's a great gap, because our goals or our ideals in terms of a person my age and my parents were more or less identical. But the ideals globally of the world between me and my children has shifted greater than they are. For example, there were even between me and my grandparents. There was a big change of ideals. And believe it or not, we are affected by those ideals. One of the things is, because if you say, I asked one time my rabbi, I said to him, why does it say letaken olam b'malchut shaddai? We say alenu l'shabeach. Why do I care about the tikkun olam? So, תחזיר עם ישראל בתשובה, so עם ישראל should be חוזר בתשובה. Why do I care about the world? He said to me, you don't understand. It will be easier to change the world, and by this changing the Jews as a fact, rather than to try to inflict change on the Jews themselves without changing things globally, because we live in the world. We don't live on the moon. I mean, we don't live a lifestyle of an Amish. They're completely isolated from society, or with some kind of a tribe in the Amazon. We are a part of society, and those ideals infiltrate on us all the time, and we therefore haven't made the proper, adaptive measures to gear ourselves to such a change in ideals to be able to address this change, and therefore we have today a phenomena that we don't know what to do. Okay, we have a 25-year-old girl and she's not married, or a 28-year-old girl and she's not married. And we are panicking, and we call it therefore a crisis. But calling it a crisis is not understanding actually what is happening there. That's one thing. And overall, and a part of these ideals is knowing really who you are and what is your job or what you're meant to do. We have a lot of options today. We have a lot of information. We're exposed to a lot of information. We have a lot of options in the world today about what to do and so on and so forth. And because sometimes we have a lot of options, and yet the schools across the board, and non-religious school, Jewish and non-Jewish schools, haven't adapted again with addressing those needs, to prepare children to transition into the world with this ever-changing pace of changes we are feeling. So there is again a gap. We, in a way, when it comes to education, we still apply and utilize the same methods and ideals of education as there were at the time of the single-room schools, in the prairies somewhere, when you had everybody like this. Basically, we're teaching almost the same way. We haven't changed anything. We still have instructions and tests and so on and so forth. We're really messing up. We are really messing up. There are different methods of learning. Kids learn today differently than they learned before because of the resources that we have. I mean, do I really need to send a kid to school? Do I really need to have tests to the kid? How do I prepare him for the jobs of the future? Do I encourage certain critical thinking in a child or not? And so on and so forth. As a result of that, there is now a crisis within me because I don't really know who I am and what am I all about. So if I don't know who I am and why am I all about, how in the world you expect me to find the right person for me if I don't know who am I? I don't know what am I about. So I can't make a decision. I cannot make a decision, let's say for example, to marry this one or to marry that one, because I don't know which one is good for me. Why? It's not because I can't make a decision, because I don't know who the basic point is. Me, who am I? Yes, maybe he or she will be good, she will be good, so that's why I go with the he. That's what happens. So the Shidduch crisis, what people call, is an ideological, educational problem. You always talk to a girl, right? You talk to a girl and she says, well, I want somebody who is kovea itim, it's like 90%. Somebody who is kovea itim la Torah, but also brings parnasa. I want somebody who is going to be learning, but one second. Do you know exactly what you want? Do you know what you want? Because when push comes to shove, I want a learner. Oh, you hear this one also. I want a learner. You want to learn and find out a problem. Here's a guy who is willing to learn. He's not looking at you as a cash cow, as an ATM machine. So he can sit and pretend. He really wants to learn. He wants to be a kli kodesh, a holy vessel. And then she says to you, well, I know, but how are we going to pay the bills? And how are we going to, do this? And I don't want to give up all the luxuries and comfort of. So what is that you want? You don't know what you want. We tell those kids, these young men and women, certain things, and we confuse them because we don't address those issues of it's a matter of emunah, and we don't prepare those girls as well for that. We want them. We say, okay. Girls, you gotta have kids as much as you want. Okay, I understand the importance of having kids, but it's not a popcorn machine. And how the heck are you going to do that if he's learning and she has to go bring a parnasa? How are you going to bring 8, 7, 9, 10, 11 kids, 16 kids, I don't know, whatever kids you want? How are you going to do that? Are you preparing the girls for that? Are you allowing those girls, encourage them to get jobs in which they could go and bring this money home? Is there a problem? No, it's sneer. The woman can also sit home. She's the kid. She can drive. Let's put them in the back of the bus. What are we in ayatollahs? What is what's going on here? Seriously. Do we tell the girls, listen, you can become a speech therapist, audiologist, you can become an accountant, you can become a computer programmer, you can write codes you become an engineer, you can do so many different things. But why don't we say, no, you're going to be a Mora in Bet Yaakov. It's very nice to be a Mora in Bet Yaakov, but there's so many Bet Yaakovs to be a Mora, and besides, everybody gets a job. It's like who knows who, not how good they are. It's always like that, right? That's like the little mafia that we have there going on. who it is that you know, not what it is that you do. Do we hire the best people for the jobs? Do we encourage new innovation of education in schools? So if the girl's supposed to be a Mora at Bet Yaakov, how many Bet Yaakov jobs are out there? And how she's going to be Mefares as kids? I mean, this is going to burst one time. Today we are sitting on the shoulders of people that allowed us to do so, but what are we going to be, Section 8, all of us? That's not something that a person is looking, and I hear the frustration from guys. The guy said, listen, I don't want to live in a Section 8. I don't want to be another thing in the newspaper that the FBI raided because there was some scam going on. I don't want to do that. Guess what? It's not for me. So therefore they take the learning and they throw it all together. And what do we end for this? Nothing. We don't prepare them. We don't allow that search inside for the person to define himself. We'll give him the proper tools. If you give somebody the proper tools, Dan kon adam lekav zchut, as a chazaka as adam kasher, he has emunah, you help them acquire emunah, you will help them acquire to know good from bad, and hopefully you will make the right decision just as much as you did. But if you're going to keep on micromanaging the kids, they're never going to be able to grow because you don't allow them the room to grow. And you're going to tell them who to marry, who not to marry, what to do, where to do, how to do, and so on and so forth. You're living your life based on, I'm going to yeshiva, not because I really want to go to that yeshiva, because that yeshiva will be good for shidduchim for me. So your learning looks like that as well. Well, but they're not good yeshivas in Brooklyn. I mean, we have to go to New Jersey. And then we have a Shidduch crisis. When power was given to many people, there was less chances to corrupt the power. When you concentrate the power into a small group of people, it becomes dangerous. And therefore we need to address that. The problem is not going to get any better regardless of what Hafrashat Chala campaign we're going to do, how many singles nights. There's some organizations that all the thing is just to put people together. They call it learning, but it's really BS. All they do is putting people together. That's not going to solve it. Oh, we have, 8 shidduchim made. This is what do you're playing games. If you want to really afflict change, you go from the bottom. Go open elementary school. Teach them the right way. Plant the change. Encourage individualism. Not a herd mentality. Because they're not your flock. They're God's flock. So therefore, if you really want to get out of this thing, I would recommend to you, out of this cycle, I would really, really recommend you to, first of all, get to know really who you are and what you are about and what's important to you and what is not important to you. These are the things. You should know it for yourself. And after you know it for yourself, you'll have better tools to be able to determine if this person is for you or that person is for you. But unless you do that, you don't. And time is going to go, and we're going to get more and more people who are not, because the person who is 25 years old today, for a frum girl to be 25 years old and not married is like, she's an Iron Maiden. It's like, what does she know about life? So we marry our kids at 18 years old, and they don't know anything about life because we haven't prepared them to life, and we haven't prepared them for the life that we have today. And we think that we still live in 300 years ago in the past, that the world was different, and the world is not different. It's completely different. Nowadays it's completely different than it was back then. And that's why we have a high rate of divorce, and that's hush-hush, nobody should talk about. But there's a high rate of divorce, which is a new phenomenon in the frum community, because young couples, get divorced. And why they get divorced? Because they haven't acquired the right tools to either deal with the situation or to avoid it. So you really need to work on yourself to know truthfully, what is it that you want out of life? How are you going to, because listen, otherwise what is going to happen? One day you're going to take all your frumkeit and throw it to the garbage, chas v'shalom. But you really need to understand, what is it that you want? How are you going to make this frum life of yours work? You need to be able, because your life is different than mine. And you need to be able to say, listen, I need A, B, and C. Argument's sake. Let's say you need to live, you like rural areas, right? I can't be and he needs Dafka to be in the heart of Brooklyn. So if I'll tell you both the same thing, one of you is going to lose. If I'll tell him to go to, I don't know, make a yeshiva in Wyoming, he's going to lose. If I'll tell you to move to downtown Brooklyn, you're going to lose. Or we're going to lose you. So you need to really know yourself, who you are and what you're about. And you need to come up with the answers. How are you going to make this frum life of yours work out? Because to live Judaism is not an option. It's not an option. It's like committing suicide. It's not an option. So how are you going to make it work? What do you need to make it work? If that was a business plan, in order to have a successful business, you make a whole thing. I need this. I need this inventory, this kind of money, and so on and so forth. Did you ever sit down with yourself and to make an inventory of what is it that you need to make this so-called life of yours a success? To make marriage success. Unless you're going to do so, it's not going to happen. It's going to be a miracle if it does. And then you're going to have a 25-year-old, and in 5 years she's going to be a 30-year-old. She's not going to change, and now things are getting worse and worse for her. Who in the world is going to marry a 28-year-old from girl? So what's wrong with her? Nothing is wrong with her. And let's say she wants to become, I know of this girl, she was a brilliant mind. And I'm talking about brilliant mind. I'm talking about something like, 145 IQ. Brilliant. Okay? She could have done anything she wanted. She really wanted to go to medical school. She really wanted to go into become a neurosurgeon or one of those things. I mean, a brilliant mind. She was afraid she won't get married. So she had to settle down. And why? Because she's going to be 20 years old and nobody would marry her? If that's the case, well, there's something's wrong with the picture. Something's wrong with the picture. And unless we're going to address what is it that we are doing wrong, not what you guys are doing, what we are doing wrong as one who talk to you and educate you and so on and so forth, I'm in great doubt that you're going to be able to pick it up. But now I gave you some tools to work with and some ideas to think about. You got to think about it. And if you do so, I do believe that you'll be matzliach. But you need honesty to do so, and you need willingness to do so. You have all the tools almost to succeed, to look within yourself. But nobody can make you look into yourself. Sit down with yourself and say, what would it take for me to succeed? Who am I? Am I the image that somebody created or I created in my head? Who am I? Truthfully, sit down with yourself, turn off the light. Who are you? Unless you're going to, this is your starting point. Not some fantasy that you're saying, oh, they like me. Nobody likes you. Who are you? Unless you're going to start from this square one, you're going to be lost. So don't get lost and find out. And have a great day.